A little impetuous. Paula says. Exclusive. I think I am, because I have very few friends.
She was one of the most photographed women in history, yet many of the people closest to her believed she felt deeply unseen. Millions knew Marilyn Monroe as the world's most glamorous woman. Few knew she spent much of her childhood moving between foster homes and would die at just 36 years old under circumstances that people still debate today. Marilyn Monroe is one of those names that still rings a bell. The world saw Marilyn Monroe as the most desired woman alive. The people closest to her saw someone searching for love and stability her entire life. She was an actor and a model who many still refer to as an epitome of sexiness. Many would argue that she was way ahead of her time. Many people know her as Marilyn Monroe, but that was not her birth name. She was born Norma Jean Mortensen, and during much of her early years she used Baker, the surname of her mother's first husband. From an early age, Marilyn already had an auspicious connection to Hollywood as her mom. Gladys Baker worked as a film cutter for companies that edited daily reels. This doesn't mean that she had an easy life. In fact, she had a really hard life. Marilyn lived in foster homes for much of her early years, as her mom later developed a mental illness that had her living in a rehab. She recounted how some of her foster families used to send her to the movies just to get her out of the house. But this also helped develop her love for movies. She said, "I'd sit all day and way into the night, up in front, there with the screen so big, a little kid all alone, and I loved it. I loved anything that moved up there, and I didn't miss anything that happened. And there was no popcorn either." Her living with foster families was the reason she got married at the age of 16. After the marriage, which didn't stand the test of time, she later made it clear that it was a forced marriage, which was arranged by her guardian who was moving away to avoid having to return to the orphanage. The marriage ended when her then husband disapproved of her blossoming career as a model. Marilyn went on to have 2 other failed marriages, mostly for what she represented at the time. In order for us to gain insight into the intrinsic aspects of her personality, we have to look at the reviews from those who work with her. One which she had a very special connection with was Sam Shaw, who their creative partnership lasted roughly a decade. Shaw described her as a free-spirited lady. He wrote, "Sex, lovers, beauty, and fame. She never fought for money except for the power money can buy. A good story, great directors." Also, in a recent documentary, Shaw's granddaughter, Melissa Stevens, had given some insights from what they found through the letters exchanged between Marilyn and her grandfather, and I believe excerpts from what he told them about her. She stated she is silly, sullen, jumping for joy, in love, alone, relaxed, contemplative, posing and not posing. Talking about how the time she lived in affected her and her freedom. Melissa stated she had personal freedom, but she did not live in a time and place that allowed her to be free, thus highlighting the struggles of the average woman in that era. One could only imagine what it was for someone like Norma Jean. Melissa also added, she gave herself permission and validation even when others did not, and also found the joy and humor within the difficulty. This, I believe, was her coping mechanism. Since we mentioned her relationship with Sam, it is worth stating how they met and continued working together for over a decade. The two met in Los Angeles in the early 1950s, when Monroe offered to drive Shaw to and from set because, being a New Yorker, he didn't have a driver's license. Sam recalled that even though Marilyn was young and out of work during that time, she did not ask him to pay for gas, Stephen says. Even though many didn't know her on a personal level, it is clear that she was a sweet soul from the accounts of those who worked closely with her. But most times, the sweetest souls faced the toughest battles. The decline all started in 1962 when she was shooting the comedy Something's Got to Give. She was, however, frequently absent from set due to illness. In May of that same year, she traveled to New York City to attend a gala where she famously sang, "Happy Birthday" to President John F. Kennedy. After several months, Norma Jean died from an overdose of barbiturates, a sleeping pill in her Los Angeles home. Her death was ruled to be a probable suicide, a finding that was supported by her history of drug use and previous attempts of suicide. However, some believe that she had been killed after threatening to reveal her relationship with the Kennedy brothers. It was also rumored that she had information linking the two men to organized crime. Marilyn Monroe did not have children. It's believed that she was pregnant a couple times, but she had complications that led to losing the pregnancies. The little girl who escaped into movies eventually became one of the biggest stars Hollywood had ever seen. Yet the happiness she searched for seemed to remain just out of reach. Her life was a rollercoaster ride, and it reminds us of how much pain fame can cause. The world remembers Marilyn Monroe as a symbol of beauty. The people who knew Norma Jean remembered someone much more complicated. A woman searching for freedom, validation, and happiness in a world that often saw only the image she projected. More than 60 years after her death, that may be the reason we still talk about her.